Welcome, everyone. My name is Rafael França. I'm a principal engineer at Shopify. I work in the Ruby and Rails infrastructure team. We are here to present the team and allow you to make questions to all those also folks. So we still have a few minutes before we close the raffle, so you can join the raffle using this QR code. We are giving 10 copies of this book, 3 physical copies and 7 digital copies as well. If you want to submit questions, you can also use the same link in the QR code. And before we start to answer the questions, I want to give you a quick opportunity to introduce yourself. Maybe just say your name and what you do at Shopify.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ufuk Kayserileoğlu, and I'm the lead of the Ruby infrastructure team.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexandre Terraza. I'm a staff engineer in the Ruby Types team.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I lead the Ruby Types team.
Hi, I'm Kevin Menard. I work on Truffle Ruby.
Hi, I'm Gabby, and I lead the Ruby conventions and the core stewardship teams.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vomer. I'm a staff developer in the Ruby on Rails infrastructure team.
Hi, I'm Maxime. I'm a tech lead on the YJet project to build a compiler for Ruby.
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm mostly management overhead.
My name is Kevin Newton, and I work on YJet.
I'm Jenny, and I'm a developer on the Ruby conventions team.
My name's Ashley, and I'm a staff developer on the Ruby conventions team.
I'm Adriana. I'm a senior dev on the Rails infra team.
Hi, I'm Maple. I'm a senior dev on Truffle Ruby.
Hey, I'm Gemma, she, her pronouns. I'm on the Ruby infrastructure team.
G'day, I'm Jacques. I'm a developer on Ruby conventions.
Hi, my name is Rock, and I'm a staff dev on Ruby conventions as well.
Hi, I'm Frederick, and I work on Ruby conventions as well.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So for the first question, we have anonymous question asking, do you have plans to provide RBS definitions to active support? Who is going to take the question?
Yeah, this is a great question. This is a good question. I would say that the short answer is no, not right now. We're actually more focusing on RBI and Sorbet, so we might actually provide definition for active support with RBI instead of RBS right now. But if you want to do so, please open a pull request.
The next question is, what has been the best move for developer productivity in the last year inside Shopify? Who is going to take that one?
In my opinion, the best developer productivity tool that we've shipped this year is we've been beta testing the Visual Studio Code extension for Sorbet that gives you inline type checking in your editor. It also gives you auto-completion, refactoring tools, like you can refactor constants across your whole code base, or you can refactor and rename methods. And we found that to be a huge developer productivity improvement. I would say that's the tool that we've shipped this year.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Something that was developed inside the company is what we call Spin. That's a cloud development environment for our developers. So they don't have to use their developer machines when they're working on code. They can just spin up. Now you know why the name is Spin. They can just spin up a cloud environment. It's similar to GitHub Codespaces, but we've been working on it for about a year now. So that's immensely improved developer productivity inside of Shopify as well. Anyone else? Yeah?
Okay. So next question. Do you anticipate Shopify continuing to build on the Rails in the future? How committed are you? I can't.
What was the question? Are we dedicated to improving Rails?
Yeah, do you anticipate Shopify continue to build in Rails? And how committed are you?
Sure. We're definitely committed to Rails. I think the size of this team, which is dedicated, this is only about half of our team, by the way, that's dedicated solely to improving Ruby and Rails, is maybe a testament to the investment that Shopify is willing to make in the ecosystem. A thing that we like to say at Shopify is we're trying to be a 100-year company. We want to be around in 100 years, but we want Ruby and Rails to be a 100-year web framework as well. So we're definitely planning on continuing to use that. We're all in, all the way up to our CTO, our CEO, who frequently yells at people for not using Rails. So, hi, Toby. Okay.
But like, why Ruby and why Rails? I don't know. Anyone can answer.
Who wants to take that one?
Because it's awesome. Ruby is a great language, and it costs more. If you're choosing a language because of its speed on micro benchmarks, first of all, you're screwing up. But also, it costs more in the difference of a salary of an engineer if they're unhappy than it does to pay for more servers. So if you're optimizing for server costs as opposed to developer happiness, then you're probably reading too much of the Orange website. That's all.
Are you hiring this team?
Yes. Okay. No, in all seriousness, yeah, Shopify is actively hiring for both product-facing roles, where the idea that Shopify, we're trying to empower entrepreneurs to have economic independence. That's like the vision of Shopify. So there's mostly product teams are hiring. So if you're interested at all in having like fast feedback loops and delivering software as a service, Shopify has a lot of opportunities. Our team is also growing. We definitely want to hire people who are already active within the Ruby and Rails community. So if that sounds interesting to you at all, please approach any of us. We're happy to talk to you about what it looks like. Would it be interesting for maybe a new member of the group to talk about what it's been like onboarding now?
Yeah.
Yeah? Who wants to take that one? Who's onboarded recently? Jacques? Yeah? Okay. Maybe more than one person can talk about this.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I'm famous for not talking much. Thank you. Yes, the short answer is that... I'm sorry. The short answer is that it has been awesome. I've been at Shopify now for approximately 6 months. They blew me away from the very start. The hiring process was amazing. The people I met were amazing. Management's been amazing. The work has been amazing. You're getting the gist of this. It's amazing. Put your name in the hat.
I'm happy to go next. I've been at Shopify for not 6 months, 6 weeks so far. Joined a little more recently, pretty fresh out of onboarding. I think the main reason I joined Shopify was to work with these people and learn from them, and I'm continually inspired by them and very much looking forward to being able to keep engaged and learning from them.
Yeah, I'll kind of echo what Gemma said. This is my 3rd week at Shopify, so definitely still in the midst of onboarding. Thank you. I've done really well in the first 3 weeks now. But definitely, yeah, still in the midst of onboarding, but the support, like both, in the onboarding process, how well thought out that is, as well as just like being able to meet this whole amazing team has been fantastic so far. So yeah, highly recommend.
Thank you. Next question. How would you justify a proposal to invest in Ruby and Rails to a business type exec that's not as tech savvy as and friendly as Toby?
Okay. Well, I think I've been the person who's been the longest at Shopify from all this group. I've been there for 7 years, and most of this time I was working actually in product teams. And yeah, I know what it's like to pitch an idea for a project that is completely technical to PMs and management that, well, they know about the product. And I think even for this group, I think we're all, no matter if we are building Shopify, the platform, or working on the language or on the framework, these are all products with users. And the reason why we invest in infrastructure, in tackling tech debt, is because we want to build great things. So this is the pitch that we should do. And no matter how tech savvy an exec is, they understand that if we are passionate about the product we're building, we can definitely make the point in which, well, investing for something that is long-term, that is going to enable other developers to ship things on a maintainable and sustainable way is going to ultimately benefit the users and benefit the business. So I think it's important for anyone on a technical role or in a management role to understand what is our mission, what is our end goal, and what are our long-term plans. And this way, I think we're going to get around like our point to the other side, no matter if the person is Toby or someone else.
Good answer. How do you sum up the secret to scale a monolith application with 2.8 million lines of Ruby code? Yeah, but Gabi's here. Maybe you can say. How do you sum up the secret to scale a monolith application as big as Shopify?
As much as possible, not doing things. That's the key to scaling that I've realized. So basically, doing lots of caching, not trying to not compute stuff over and over again, is like really the key to how you scale a system to the scale that we have it. Any other answers?
So we, like our monolith is so big, we have like formed teams over the years to actually invest on growing. And so for example, we did, sorry, I'm really nervous. This is the first time I'm representing my team, so I hope I don't disappoint you all. So over the years, we have been investing a lot on the platform, also like upstreaming a lot of things in Rails, investing on bringing people with expertise, growing expertise internally. We also involve a lot of our developers. We welcome anyone into our channels to let's discuss how we can improve the code base, how can we make it faster, how we can make it easier to develop in. We have done like sharding, for example. We have implemented different job queuing systems. For example, the Rails teams recently have been working on a gem called maintenance tasks to improve running maintenance tasks in very large databases. So we do invest in growing and scaling in multiple dimensions. For example, recently we're also improving performance, and then a lot of the things that we do, we contribute back to Rails and to other gems to make the improvement available for everyone, not just for us. Hawk has something.
One of the things that I learned shortly after I joined Shopify is that Shopify chooses to invest in relatively few technologies, but it goes really deep in each and every one of them. So we gravitate mostly around, let's say, MySQL as the database of choice. And our company has learned to work within the bounds and push the bounds of MySQL, even though sometimes it could be alluring to look at other database technologies. Same goes for Redis or Memcache. So we try to keep the ecosystem relatively simple, and we seldom jump on the next bandwagon just because it might seem like it's a better fit for the current problem right now. So it allows our developers to have to learn about fewer different competing stacks, if you will. Also keeping things simple, not using every single bell and whistle that is available on a given framework, to also lessen the cognitive load and keep things simple to read. So, yeah.
Yes, of course.
So it might be skewed because I'm working for the Ruby types team, but I strongly believe that gradual typing also helped a lot, not regarding the code safety and type safety aspect, but for the human aspect, where people joining the company can find this evergreen documentation on top of methods, and we do not count anymore how many people came and say, oh, it's so easy now because I understand what is the thing that this method will take on what is be returned here. So it has been helping a lot.
What are the big things, actually the big contributions Shopify engineers have made to Ruby and Rails, or Rails recently? Maybe Maxime can talk about that?
I mean, not directly to Rails per se, but yeah, we've been working on a widget, which is a new just-in-time compiler for Ruby. And yeah, we've been targeting primarily Rails as the main application that we want to speed up, because we know that a lot of people out there are using Ruby for Ruby on Rails, and we do a lot of that at Shopify.
Anyone else?
Do you want to talk about variable width allocation?
And in parallel to the widget work, the Ruby infrastructure team over the last year has been working on improving the memory layout of the Ruby garbage collection heap. We call it the variable width allocation project. And Peter Zhu and Matt Valentin House has been working on that. And they actually have a talk at RubyConf that is being live streamed virtually. They couldn't be here, unfortunately. But the work they're doing is trying to break the boundaries of the Ruby garbage collection heap by making objects larger than 40 bytes. And by providing memory locality, it's hopefully going to speed up some of the Ruby operations on objects as well. So that's one thing that we're building inside of CRuby. Parts of that work has already been merged inside of CRuby and will be shipped with 3.1, except it's behind the compile time flag for now. It needs to be enabled, but hopefully by 3.2, you'll see the benefits in your applications of some of that work.
I guess something we shipped as part of kind of an add-on to Rails was the maintenance task gem. Rails doesn't really give you a good solution for modifying production data. We were finding that within Shopify, the go-to pattern was to write a database migration to push a background job. So we decided to make a mountable Rails engine in the form of a gem to make it easier to modify production data. So yeah, we built maintenance tasks. It's it's an engine you can mount in your Rails application, and you write a task and you can run it from a web UI by pressing a button. So yeah, that's something we worked on recently. It is open source, yes, you can find it.
Okay, next question. With Ruby 3 supporting types, will you move off of sorbet? Are there any big difference?
No, we won't move off of sorbet. Do you want to add anything to that?
So we've been working a bit with the people like behind RBS and TypeProf and Steep. And one of the things we noticed between at least the three tools and Sorbet is that Sorbet is like the only one right now that supports the scale we have. We have a monolith with like more than 40,000 files, like a few millions of lines of code. And we can type check this on our machine in less than 20 seconds, which is like something we cannot reach right now with other tooling. And the other part is that for now, like what all developers have liked about RBS and Sorbet is that we can put the type annotation in line directly inside the file, instead of RBS where you have like this external type annotation file. And if you've been working in C or C++ and you have like this external header file that you need to keep up to date with your file, you know that it's not like the best experience. So right now, that's why we're investing so heavily in Sorbet. And at some point, we might even like do the switch and like focus more on RBS, but we're not ready for that. If you look at the Sorbet repo, we already opened a PR a year ago, I think, to to translate RBS to RBI, so we can use RBS with Sorbet. It's not ready yet, but this is also something we consider for the long future.
So I just want to add a point here. So RBS is just the signature syntax. So RBS as a syntax is only declaring the types of the methods that are coming from the core and standard library as it's shipped inside of Ruby today. So that's only providing the types, but you need a tool that will actually use those types to do the type checking for you. Similarly, if you're using RBS in your code base, then you need to create external RBS files in your code base. But creating those isn't enough. You need, again, like a tool that will do the type checking by using that information. And right now, like Alex said, Sorbet is the most mature tool in the space that can actually handle our code base, the size of our code base. So that's why we're using Sorbet today. But if something better comes along tomorrow, we have all the type information in our code base. We can easily switch to another tool. We're open to that, but right now, Sorbet seems to be the best bet for us.
Thank you. What kind of things does the Ruby Conventions team work on?
I will let some other person in the Ruby Conventions team talk.
Yeah, so the Ruby Conventions teams primarily focuses on security-related issues related to Ruby. And yeah, so for example, one thing we worked on earlier this year was bumping all Ruby versions in services to like a supported Ruby version, or upgrading Bundler to like the latest Bundler version to solve some security issues, which is like a really big pain if you have like over 600 services that you need to upgrade. Yeah, and right now we are, for example, working with the Ruby Gems team to make sure that when you install a gem that you actually know that who the person was that signed the gem, so that you know that everything is like properly signed. Yeah, so that's what we are focusing on primarily.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much to add to what Frederick said. Lately, our focus has been on the Ruby Gems ecosystem and studying ways to improve supply chain security. It's so hot right now. Supply chain security, so hot. And it matters. It matters at our scale, but it matters for everybody. We're big enough that naughty people are interested in getting inside our perimeter, but everybody faces the same problems. You look around, it happens to NPM, but it happens to Ruby too. So we need to be prepared. We need to find the ways to make it better for everybody, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Okay, so next question. What makes a successful Shopify engineer? What are there specific characteristics that you are looking for when hiring?
I think the one thing that makes Shopify engineers so successful is the ability to jump into new things. So I joined the Ruby and Rails infrastructure team early this year. I've been in other product teams, but this is an entirely new space. And especially right now, working closer to open source, I was a bit nervous working with external people and doing all that kind of stuff, but the willingness of just trying it, does a lot. Yeah.
So I joined the Truffle Ruby team this year in January. I had no compiler or interpreter experience before, and so I think one of the main reasons why we are successful is, I want to echo what Jenny said, is we're willing to try anything new and learn how we learn, and constantly improve ourselves.
If I could add something else that I've seen that made a difference for people being successful at Shopify engineering, and I think this applies to other places as well, is the ability to question the status quo and not being afraid of trying something different and something new. Sometimes, imposter syndrome is a big thing whenever you start a new team or a new company, but having a fresh pair of eyes and anything that looks maybe unusual sometimes could be a good explanation of why a certain culture or a certain method is the way it is. Other times, it's just because no one else ever questioned that before. So it's something that I try to apply on my day-to-day job. It's something that I encourage other members of the team to doing the same, is always questioning and coming with other suggestions and not being afraid to just speak your mind and, try something new.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I think something that I found at Shopify that I haven't found at other companies before is this team especially, but Shopify as a whole has a lot of very talented engineers who are not trying to actively show off. A lot of the more experienced engineers that I have worked with over the years, though not here, have been more interested in showing me how smart they are than helping me. But the team I'm on, I get to work with Maxime every day, and I can tell you that getting to work with someone who is very, very experienced, who is also willing to help you and teach you, is an incredible experience, and that is all I have experienced at Shopify. So I think that drastically plays into the culture, and it's a reason why people like to be on this team.
A quick question. Does Shopify use Truffle Ruby?
Hi. So Shopify is not currently using Truffle Ruby in production. Mike spoke earlier about Shopify trying to build a 100-year company, and Truffle Ruby is one of these longer-term investments we're making. So we're currently running production workloads against Truffle Ruby to help us determine where to focus efforts, but we have not deployed it into production yet. Yeah, sure. So one of the things we do at Truffle Ruby is we work on the Ruby specs. So this is like an unofficial specification of the Ruby language, and this is something that benefits really all Ruby implementations. And we've been focusing on a few different projects of late. Maple's been working on optimizing keyword performance, keyword argument performance, sorry. I don't know if any of you caught Gemma's talk earlier this morning, but she had this really nifty slide about relative performance of methods depending on whether they're using keyword arguments or positional or some combination thereof. So anyway, Maple's been working on optimizing that in Truffle Ruby, but the work there isn't necessarily Truffle Ruby specific. There's just, general computation ideas coming out of that can be applied to other Ruby implementations as well. So the work between Truffle Ruby and YJIT and MRI is really collaborative. And yeah, other things we're looking at are improving regular expression performance, encoding negotiation performance. We're working on speeding up interpreter, which is something that generally affects other Ruby implementations like JRuby or Truffle Ruby. Because with languages that kind of focus on the JIT, they tend to have a slower startup time, so we're trying to tackle that angle as well. Yeah, that's about it.
Last question. What's like collaborating with people outside of Shopify on some of those open source things? Are there politics or conflicts?
Hi, we've actually, that's a great question because we've actually had really great collaboration with companies like Stripe specifically on Sorbet, with GitHub specifically on improving Ruby and Rails performance. I actually have monthly meetings with teams from those companies on my calendar where we talk about the status of our work. We plan like the next month and where our teams are going, so we synchronize. Because the goal is we all work on open source technologies, and it's in all of our interests to make those tools and frameworks better for all these companies. So in that sense, we're not in competition. We actually need to collaborate to make the tools better for us and for the whole community. So we've been actively working together on those kinds of things. And so far, we haven't had any political problems. On the contrary, everyone's really open. This is a Ruby community, so everyone's really open to help each other out, and we've had great success.
I'll just echo that. We just recently founded the Ruby Conventions team, and for the first few months, we were only working on internal projects, and most recently, we started working on contributing, into Bundler and Ruby Gems, and we have felt nothing but really welcomed. Like, even if people didn't know who we were, like, they were willing to jump with us on Slack, and chat, and talk about issues that they were having, the plans that they had, what we were thinking, and really collaborate. The Ruby community has been amazing to us, and we're trying to give it back. We're really humble, and we're learning from everyone else as well. So we have felt nothing but welcomed, right? Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, folks. That's the Ruby on Rails infrastructure team. Quickly before we end, I have the names of people that won the raffle for the book. Craig Trempton, Dylan Menkes, Francis Go, Gunnar Hunkler, Esteban Saudriaga, Melody Kishberg, Mike Volward, Clara Monegier, Max Metcalf, Alexander Fomonov. You can find us in the Shopify booth, and we are also going to reach out to you via email. Thank you so much.